The sun shone bright over the spring morning, warm and peaceful, but inside Elijah Hart's chest something tightened as he walked across the parking lot of the Rosewood estate. He had been here before years ago, during happier times when he had married the woman who now hated him with a bitterness he still didn't understand. Today he wasn't here for joy. He had been summoned, not kindly invited, by his ex-wife's family. And deep in his heart, he knew this wasn't a gesture of grace. It was a setup, a performance, a show designed to remind him that he was now beneath them, a single father barely holding life together. And yet he came, not for them, but for one little girl who believed the world was still full of love. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet heroes like single dads who keep going no matter what, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Kindness. It means everything. People turned to stare at him as he walked in, adjusting the slightly frayed collar of the only suit he owned. The estate gleamed with white flowers and polished marble, a stark contrast to Elijah's tired shoes and worn edges. He had worked until midnight at the auto repair shop, then helped his daughter Ivy with her school project until she fell asleep at the table. He lived a life of responsibility, not glamour, and he wore it like a badge of quiet pride. But as he stepped through the arched doors, he felt the judgment ripple across the room like whispered wind. The wedding hall smelled of roses and expensive perfume. Guests shone in pastel colors, diamonds glittering against sunlight that poured through tall windows. Elijah stood still for a moment, letting the weight of the place settle in his bones. This was the world he had once tried to belong to. This was the world that had rejected him the moment he began to struggle. Camille, his ex-wife, had grown up here, in wealth and polish. Her parents, Arthur and Vanessa Rousseau, were the type who smiled at charity events, but rolled their eyes at anyone who actually needed help. When Camille left him, claiming she was tired of being with someone going nowhere, they welcomed her home without hesitation. They never offered Elijah a single inch of understanding. Then they took Ivy from him. Not legally, but emotionally. They made him feel small, poor, unworthy. Elijah fought for shared custody and he won. But the scars of those battles had left him weary. Even today, Camille refused to let him bring Ivy as his +1. She insisted Ivy would come later with her grandparents so she could match the family pictures. Elijah had argued, but Camille only smiled and said, "It's my wedding, Eli. Try not to embarrass yourself." And yet, here he was. He stepped into the courtyard where the pre-wedding brunch was being set up under a white canopy. Laughter bubbled like sparkling wine, cameras clicked, and a live string quartet played soft music beneath the bright day. Elijah stood alone, unsure where to go, until a voice he knew well sliced through the crowd. "Elijah!" Vanessa Rousseau called, her tone sugary but sharp beneath. She approached with a practiced smile that had never once reached her eyes. "Thank you for finally arriving. You clean up decently." There it was, the first jab. He forced a polite nod. "Good morning, Vanessa." She didn't respond to the greeting. Instead, she placed a hand on his arm, guiding him toward a cluster of their relatives with the same pushiness one uses to drag along an unwanted guest. Elijah walked slowly, noticing their eyes on him, the half-smirks, the whispers, the mocking glances at his old suit. "Elijah!" another relative said, her voice dripping with amusement. "We weren't sure you'd actually come. Isn't this a bit fancy for you?" Someone else murmured, "Is he still working at that garage?" "Poor thing." Another snickered, "I heard he lives in that tiny rental near the highway." Elijah kept his breath steady. These people didn't know the nights he stayed awake, making sure Ivy slept peacefully. They didn't know the extra shifts he took to keep her in school activities or how he fixed neighbors' cars for free when they were struggling. They didn't know, and they didn't care. He endured the comments, standing like a quiet stone in a river of judgment, until finally he heard Camille's voice. He turned, And there she was, glowing in her bridal robe, makeup perfect, hair swept into elegant curls. She looked beautiful. Elijah couldn't deny that. But the softness she once carried, the tenderness she once had vanished long ago. "Well," Camille said with a cold smile, "you made it." He exhaled slowly. "I came because you asked me to." "Of course," she said. "After all, it's good for guests to see all parts of my past." The way she phrased it made a few people chuckle. "Besides, my fiancé wanted to meet you before the ceremony. He finds your situation fascinating." Elijah clenched his jaw. "My situation?" "You know," she said lightly, "single dad, struggling paycheck to paycheck. It's sort of inspiring, like a sad movie." He swallowed hard. Then came the twist. Camille's new fiancé, Rowan Pierce, appeared, tall, polished, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Elijah's monthly rent. He extended a hand, wearing an exaggerated look of sympathy. "Elijah," Rowan said warmly, "I've heard so much about you. Must be tough raising a child alone." Elijah accepted the handshake but answered with calm firmness, "It's the best thing in my life." Rowan chuckled as though humoring a child. Of course. Well, I admire you for trying. Not everyone is built for success, you know." The guests laughed behind him. Elijah felt each sound like a stab, but he did not move, did not break. Inside him, something shifted, a quiet fire slowly rising, but everything changed the moment Ivy arrived. She ran into the courtyard wearing a pale blue dress, her curly hair bouncing as she searched the crowd. When she saw Elijah, her face lit up like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Daddy!" Elijah dropped to his knees and opened his arms, catching her with all the love in his heart. Her laughter melted every cruel whisper that had filled the morning. He held her tight, breathing her in, reminding himself of the only truth that mattered. But then Vanessa swooped in. "Ivy, sweetheart, careful. Don't wrinkle your dress before the photos." Ivy frowned. "I missed my dad." Elijah gently squeezed her hand. "I missed you too, kiddo." But Camille approached, irritation flashing in her eyes. "Ivy, come here. You're getting fingerprints on his old suit." Ivy hesitated, looking between them. Elijah forced a reassuring smile. "It's okay, Ivy. Go ahead." But the hurt in her eyes made the fire inside him grow stronger. Then came the moment the family had clearly planned. Arthur Rousseau tapped his glass loudly. "Everyone, since Elijah is here, let's take a candid family photo. You know, for memories." People clapped awkwardly. The photographer arrived, setting up quickly. "Elijah," Arthur said with theatrical confusion, "why don't you step—" "Oh, I don't know. Somewhere in the back? We need symmetry." Everyone laughed again. Ivy tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, why are they laughing?" Elijah's throat tightened. He stepped into place, but not where Arthur indicated. He walked directly to the front beside Ivy. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Camille's face flushed with anger. "Eli," she hissed, "you're ruining the arrangement." "No," Elijah said softly. "I'm just standing next to my daughter." The photographer hesitated, unsure. Then Rowan called out, "Come on, Elijah, be reasonable, don't make this awkward." And that was it. Something inside Elijah snapped back into place, not anger, but dignity. He had spent years shrinking himself so Ivy would not suffer in the crossfire. He had played small, quiet, polite. But today he realized something important. Ivy saw everything. She learned from every moment. Elijah refused to teach his daughter that love meant silence in the face of humiliation. So Elijah stepped forward, picked up a microphone from the sound table, and addressed the courtyard with a calm that froze the entire crowd. "I'm not here to ruin anyone's wedding," he began, "but since I've been made a spectacle, I'll speak." The music stopped. The guests turned. "For years," he continued, "I've listened to this family belittle me, judge me, mock me. I never responded because I wanted Ivy to have peace. I wanted her to grow up without bitterness. He looked directly at Camille. But today you used my daughter as a prop. You tried to embarrass her father to feel superior. The crowd murmured. Elijah's voice steadied with unexpected strength. I work hard. I provide for my child. I fix engines, yes, not stock portfolios. I live in a small place, yes, not a mansion. But what I have, I built with my own 2 hands. And what I give Ivy cannot be bought. Love, time, honesty, safety. He turned to the photographer. And no one will make me stand behind my daughter as if I don't belong. Slow, stunned silence blanketed the courtyard. Then Ivy stepped forward and took Elijah's hand. Daddy belongs with me, she said boldly. Something shifted among the guests. A few even nodded. Camille, red with embarrassment, tried to speak, but Rowan grabbed her arm. Let it go, he muttered, suddenly less smug. Elijah knelt beside Ivy. Sweetheart, are you okay being here? No, she whispered. I want to go home with you. He stood, addressing the crowd one last time. I'm taking my daughter. Enjoy your wedding. And he walked away. Not dramatically, not angrily, but with quiet confidence. People parted for him as he moved. No one laughed anymore. No one mocked him. They simply watched, wide-eyed, as the man they underestimated walked out carrying the only treasure that mattered. Once outside, Ivy wrapped her arms around his neck. Daddy, she murmured, you didn't ruin anything. You saved me. Elijah kissed her forehead. No, Ivy, you saved me. Their car was old, a little noisy, nothing like the luxury vehicles parked around it. But when Elijah started the engine and pulled away, the world felt brighter, warmer, full of unexpected possibility beneath the golden afternoon sun. And in that moment, Elijah realized something extraordinary. He had not ruined a wedding. He had reclaimed his dignity. He had shown Ivy what strength truly looked like, and he had done it with kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Everyday Kindness. Your support helps us keep spreading stories that inspire. Special request, comment below. Respect for all single parents. To show support for real everyday heroes. Would you like a YouTube title, SEO description, keywords, and hashtags shown for this story?